Goblin launch detected.
Before we get into today's game, I want to talk about the sponsors for my channel. Card Conduit is the best way to sell your unused magic cards. Whether you've got a box of unsorted bulk, or a complete and alphabetized set, there's a great option for everyone. With a payout averaging 19% better than using any one buy list, and that's after fees are applied, you can rest assured you'll get the best bang for your buck. If you're a skeptic like me, their easy customer service and detailed reports make the whole interaction transparent and safe. Use Card Conduit today to save yourself some time and make some extra money. And 401 Games, Canada's one-stop shop for trading cards, board games, and hobby supplies. Not to mention an easy-to-use and great online buy list. And if you use the promo code MTGMUDSTA, your first purchase of MTG sealed and singles will be 5% off. And Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest deck. So be sure to use the code MUDSTA or the affiliate link down below to save 5% on your next order. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's patron shoutout goes to Adam. If you'd like to get in on the shoutouts, your name at the end of the video, or want me to play one of your decks, check out some of the tiers over on my Patreon. In today's game we have Ian, Maximus, and Mika rejoining us. Ian is playing his Jetmir deck, keeping Jungle Shrine, Fortified Village, Idol of Oblivion, Plains, Farseek, Game Trail, and a Forest. I am still testing my Indominus Rex deck, keeping an Arcane Signet, Island, Breeding Pool, Dance of the Dead, Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, Command the Dreadhorde, and Read the Bones. Mika is playing his Athreos Boardwipes Matter deck, keeping Planar Collapse, 2 Plains, Tainted Field, Memorial to Folly, Swamp, and Corehaven. Last but not least, Max is playing his Edgar Markov deck, with Edgar Markov being the only vampire creature with the type written on it. He keeps Exotic Orchard, Sacred Foundry, Psychic Paper, Mindblade Renderer, Glasscast Heart, Avian Changeling, and an Edgewalker. Ian wins the die roll and starts us off. He displays a Forest. I draw and play a tap Breeding Pool. Max also shockland with a Sacred Foundry. Mika's turn has him playing a tap Memorial to Folly, and he passes turn. Ian's got a Plains, paying 2 for an Idol of Oblivion, and passing. I draw and play an Urborg. I then cast an Arcane Signet and pass. During my end step, Max casts an Enlightened Tutor, going to put to top a Soul Ring. Max draws his Soul Ring and plays an Exotic Orchard and then casts it. He then casts an Avian Changeling, making a Vampire token and passing. Mika just plays a Plains and then plays out Planar Collapse and passes to Ian. Ian's got a tapped Game Trail and then pays 2 for a Farseek and passes to me. My turn has me playing a Tainted Wood and then paying 3 for Read the Bones. I scry 2, lose 2, and draw 2, and then pass. Max plays a Mindblade Render in his main phase, and follows up with a Psychic Paper. Going to combat, Max swings his Avian Changeling and the Vampire token at Mika for 3, who takes the hit. Max then loses 1 and draws a card from the Mindblade and passes turn. Mika's just got a Corehaven and passes. Ian plays a tap Jungle Shrine and casts his own Soul Ring and passes. My turn has me drawing and playing a Reflecting Pool, and I then pay 1 black for an Entomb. I put to graveyard an Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, and once that's in there, cast Dance of the Dead to bring it back. I then pass to Max. Max draws and goes to combat. He swings the team at Mika, and Mika uses Corehaven on the Avian Changeling to at least prevent 2 of it. Max still deals 1, and then draws again from the Mindblade. He then plays a Skull Clamp, and clamps a Vampire token to draw 2. Max then wraps things up with an Arcane Signet, and then pays to move the Skull Clamp onto the Mindblade Render, and passes to Mika. Mika just plays a Plains. Ian draws and plays Primal Vigor for turn, and then passes to me. On my untap step, I pay the 2 to untap Ulamog, and then draw and play an Island in my main phase. I go to combat and swing Ulamog at Mika. He uses Corehaven to prevent the damage, but still has to exile his top 20. After that, I pass to Max. Max's turn has him casting a Glasscast Heart, and he moves to combat. He swings 2 at Ian and 2 at me, which has Max drawing 2 and losing 2, and he then makes 2 blood tokens thanks to the Primal Vigor. After combat, Max plays a Swamp, and he pays to cast a Flamekin Harbinger. going to find a universal automaton. He then clamps the Harbinger, drawing 2 and passing. Mika draws and plays a Swamp. He then casts a False Prophet and passes. Ian's main phase has him casting a Cultivate, and he goes to find a basic for the field, and he then plays the Forest he finds as his land for turn. I don't untap Ulamog this turn, and then draw for turn. I cast Indominus Rex, and as he comes in, discard an Elder Gargoth, Silumgar the Drifting Death, Vampire Nighthawk, and a Cragplate Baloth. This has me drawing 8 cards for the 8 keywords, and I then move to combat. I swing Indominus at Max, who takes the 6. I then pass, discarding down to 7, and on my end step, Max uses the Glass Cast Heart to make a vampire token. Max draws and plays a Scalding Tarn. He then cracks it, losing 1 for a tap Savai Triome. He then goes to combat and swings the Mindblade Render and the Vampire at Ian, and the Changeling goes at Mika. They both take their hits, and Max gets some blood tokens and some draws from the Render. In his post-combat main phase, Max then plays a Dragon's Horde, and he then moves the Skull Clamp back onto the Render again and passes to Mika. On Mika's upkeep, the Planar Collapse triggers and destroys all creatures. This includes the False Prophet, which exiles my 2 indestructible creatures. Mika then draws for turn and plays a Tainted Field, and then casts Athreos and passes to Ian. Ian draws for turn and plays a tapped Fortified Village. He then plays a Welcoming Vampire and passes. I draw, playing out a Rejuvenating Spring, and then cast Cultivate. I follow up with a Fire Shrieker and pass. During my end step, Max uses the Heart to make another vampire token. Max draws and plays a Nomad Outpost. He then plays an Edgewalker, and then casts a discounted Skeletal Changeling, and then plays Universal Automaton as well. This is Max making some vampire tokens, and Max then taps most of his board to help convoke out an Obelisk of Erd, naming vampires as it comes in. He then moves to combat and swings his sole untapped vampire token that can swing, and it deals 3 to me, and he gains 3, and he passes to Mika. Mika draws and plays a Mist Moon Griffin. He then moves to his end step and puts a coin counter onto the Welcoming Vampire and passes turn. Ian draws and plays a Plains. He sacrifices his Idol of Oblivion, making 2 10/10s, and passes after that. I draw and play an Island. I then cast a Living Death, which has us swapping our boards with our graveyards. With Indominus Rex coming back, I get 7 keywords to my discards, drawing 7, and Max gets to tutor Praetorian Mauler with the Flamekin Harbinger. I then follow up by moving the Flame Shrieker onto Indominus Rex, and I go to combat. I swing the Indominus Rex and Cragplate at Mika, who puts the False Prophet in front of the Baloth. The False Prophet dies and exiles all creatures, but not before Mika takes a huge chunk of damage. After combat, I play out Luxior, and I then pass turn. During my end step, Max makes another vampire token with his heart. Max draws for turn, and then equips the Skull Clamp onto his vampire token, and then plays out a Taurian Mauler. Going to combat, he swings the token at me, and I take the hit. He then plays out Magda after combat, and passes to Mika. Mika draws and plays a Sarah Paragon. He then uses her ability to cast Planar Collapse from his graveyard. Moving to his end step, he puts a coin counter onto the Sarah Paragon from Athreos, and passes. Ian draws and plays Hour of Reckoning. This has Max responding with "And they shall know no fear," naming vampires to save his board. The Hour then resolves and kills the Sarah Paragon, which comes back with the coin counter. Ian is ready though, casting Path to Exile to finally remove it permanently, and with nothing else, he passes. I just draw, play a Criminal Past, and pass to Max. Max draws and plays a Swamp, and then casts a Rune Stalactite. He moves it to the Vampire token, and he goes to combat. He swings everything at me, getting some treasure tokens from Magda, and he hits me for a total of 17. After combat, Max casts Corpse Harvester and passes to Mika. Mika's Planar Chaos goes off on his upkeep, but Max has a Boros Charm and uses it to save his board. He then casts Duskmangler, discarding a card to it. As it comes in, we then each discard a card, sacrifice a creature, and lose 4. This has Max responding by casting Nameless Inversion, and he targets Duskmangler since it's his last card anyway. And we all sacrifice a creature, with Max sacrificing the token with the clamp, and he draws 2. After that, Mika puts a coin counter onto the Mangler, and passes to Ian. Ian draws and plays Avacyn's Pilgrim. Once that's out, he plays Reese the Redeemed, and passes. I draw and play a Misty Rainforest, and crack it, losing 1 for a Sunken Hollow. This allows me to then recast Indominus Rex, and as he comes in, I discard an Endrazor Forerunners and an Ornithopter of Paradise, getting 4 keywords and 4 cards. I then move Luxior onto him, and I go to combat. I swing Rex at Max for 15, and without flying blockers, he takes exactly 21 points of damage, and with that, I pass turn. Mika draws and plays a Nightmare Shepherd, and then casts a Martyr's Cause. He puts a coin counter onto the Shepherd during his end step, passing to Ian. Ian draws and activates Reese to make 2 elf tokens in his main phase. He then casts Shamanic Revelation, drawing 4, and then casts a Scoot Swarm and passes to me. I draw and play a Forest. I then cast Kadama's Reach and put the Fire Shrieker onto Indominus as well. I follow up with a Bone Miser, and I move to combat. I swing Rex at Mika, and he sacrifices the Duskmangler to Martyr's Cause, preventing the damage. Mika exiles it with the Night Shepherd to make a token, and the Mangler also comes back from Athreos' ability, which, as they enter, make us all sacrifice 2 creatures, lose 8, and discard 2. With nothing else, I pass to Mika. Mika plays a Vault of the Archangel, and goes to combat. He swings the Shepherd at me for 4, which I take. After combat, Mika plays Angel of Despair, which as it comes in, blows up Primal Vigor. Moving to his end step, he puts a coin counter back onto the real Mangler, and passes to Ian. Ian's turn has him drawing and playing Phylath, making 6 plant tokens as it comes in. He then casts Jetmir, and passes. I draw and play an Island. I then recast Indominus Rex, this time discarding a Sanguine Spy, getting 2 keywords and drawing 2. I then move Fire Shrieker back onto Indominus, and pass to Mika. Mika draws and plays a Swamp. He moves to combat, and swings the Angel at me and the Nightmare Shepherd at Ian. We both take our hits, and after combat, Mika casts Kaya's Wrath to wipe the board. Mika gets his Duskmangler back, and the Nightmare Shepherd makes a copy of the Angel of Despair as it dies, which as the copy comes in, destroys Ian's Soul Ring. He also gets back the Duskmangler, and makes a copy with the Night Shepherd, which will take me out with the triggers, and Ian is forced to sacrifice 2 creatures, loses 8, and discards 2. After that, Mika puts a coin counter back onto the Mangler during his end step, and he passes to Ian. Ian draws, but with nothing to deal with Mika's board, knows when he's beat, and scoops it up. Game review time. This game was 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 5 seconds, and I'm pretty sure at this point there will be a couple comments about Max not getting enough tokens when he was casting vampires, or in this case, changelings. The Primal Vigor would have doubled them, and unfortunately we missed it. It would have made him a bit more of a threat, and probably justified me killing him all the more, and it's something we'll have to watch for moving forward. Speaking of killing Max, unfortunately I probably should have taken out Mika instead. His Athreos deck, as soon as that Martyr's Cause dropped, was a huge problem. This card can get around Hexproof and Shroud, and he was able to basically sacrifice the creature that forced us to sacrifice thing and take 4, meaning they kept getting protected and costing us usually our attackers. Couple that with the fact that most of his spells were board wipes, meant he really controlled the board and didn't allow us to do anything. My Indominus Rex deck feels so much better now that I'm drawing the appropriate amount of things based on the counters I put on him. I'm still trying to find the sweet spot between amount of creatures with Hexproof, Haste, and Indestructible, but I think I'm finally starting to get the hang of it more and more. Ian's Jetmir deck unfortunately struggled a lot, considering he played directly after the board wipe deck. It meant that unless he had Haste, he was typically never going to be able to build up a big enough board to become a threat, and it was very difficult for him to establish any kind of board state, and he found himself mostly just playing defensively, and that's not exactly what you want to be doing in a Jetmir deck. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.